Now, if you were there for the Stockholm Major, you probably remember a pretty prominent issue, and that was the fact that people that were on the Turkish lira could now buy capsules for only about 15 cents USD. This is because the Turkish lira had dropped so significantly in comparison to the USD that people could use a VPN, buy the Turkish lira, use it to buy capsules, and they would only end up spending about 15 cents. Valve went ahead on a 2.5-year long tirade to go ahead and try and stop this, but ultimately they decided to take the loss and remove the Turkish lira and the Argentine peso, ultimately removing the risk that these currencies had, or so they thought, because just about a couple weeks ago, after the update had already taken place, we just saw the Argentine peso decrease 50% overnight, and that created a huge implication for the Steam market. SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description. Now, unfortunately, when something like this comes along, there's a lot of unintended consequences. The first of which is if you are in Turkey or in Argentina, it's almost impossible for you to buy games at any reasonable price because you're now looking at a USD-based pricing, which is obviously extremely expensive. However, this has actually no impact for the Counter-Strike market because the Counter-Strike market runs solely off of USD, which means the price you see is 25 cents USD converted over into your currency if we're talking about a capsule on sale, and it goes for everything else. And this is extremely important because this is where the problems run into. When you are able to buy your currency for significantly cheaper than 25 cents, that creates a whole issue all across the board because everyone else cannot. Now, what items are actually impacted? Well, first off, I want to start with these right here. These are the Paris capsule prices as soon as they hit that 75% off sale. This is the graph if all of those prices were updated to now. As you can see, obviously the Argentine peso is only worth about 7 cents and the Turkish lira is just worth under 20. A pretty significant difference due to just the changes in these currencies over time, and these are the two most significant changes out of every currency Valve supports. However, the items that you see that are going to be the most impacted is going to be anything that Valve sells. These are going to be your $1 capsules in the store, along with the Anubis package and any other stupid thing like the StatTrack swap tool. Basically, anything that Valve sells for one fixed price all across the board, people are going to have a significant advantage. If they can buy it for cheaper, send it over to a friend who's going to sell it on the Steam market, and even with that 13% fee, they're going to be making a decent amount of money. This is why if we want to look at any of these items, on the 14th of December, we see the quantity sold pick up quite significantly and the price drop off quite significantly because people are sending off a bunch of these items to buy orders because they were now able to buy them for extremely cheap prices. This time Valve fixed it relatively quickly, which is why you can see a lot of them ended up dropping back down in the normal quantity sold, and the prices usually stayed a little bit lower for a period of time, but they usually end up rebounding slightly over time. It definitely takes a while though. Relatively speaking, anytime we see a drastic change in price for any of these items, at least at this point, it's almost guaranteed to be because of a currency change rather than anything else, because Valve just cannot seem to get on top of this no matter what they do. However, Valve had an even bigger blunder in the past 6 months, and that's with the way that cases and skins drop. Now, if you don't remember, in June of last year, we saw a brand new change to the drop system. Instead of cases being dropped randomly, every time you leveled up to 5,000 XP, you're going to be going ahead and getting a case drop. Now, with CS2, they went ahead and made it so you could choose it, but it's roughly the same. But the biggest thing is, they did this not because they wanted to ensure that people were getting case drops, but rather to stop people from case farming, and instead, it did pretty much the exact opposite. Now, if you ever see me mention this sheet right here, it's an estimate of the total amount of cases out there, and it's an estimate that comes from a specific case farmer, all of which the information I'm about to share also comes from that said case farmer. Now, what he says is case farming is not really stopped. In fact, the only difference is the people that sucked at case farming were stopped. He linked me this tweet by Cantry, which he says explains it pretty decently. Basically, if you would know what you're doing for case farming and you've got the whole setup, things just got extremely more efficient for you, because instead of having to wait for an undisclosed amount of time to get that case, you're going to be able to get that case pretty much instantly, because all you have to do is level up, and it's going to be pretty easy to do if you know exactly what you are doing. He says the one good thing that did come along with this is Valve is pretty aware at this point who is case farming just because of the actions that each account has specifically taken, but it's not going to be good overall. They're going to be putting a lot of stress on their servers, a lot of stress on the anti-cheat, and he says it's not actually super simple for Valve to go ahead and ban all of these accounts because people are going to continue to buy them. And that's the biggest thing, is a lot of people are using a VPN to buy accounts in different regions, which is why the Turkish and the Argentinian currency actually got removed. Now, those were the failed updates, but we got a couple interesting things on the horizon. The first of which is the Copenhagen Major, and that's because the capsules aren't going to be the legends, the contenders, and the challengers. Well, almost guaranteed not to be. That's because there's going to be a completely different format. Instead of having those three distinct stages, we're now going to have the elimination stage and the opening stage. Opening stage is going to be those 16 teams you're used to, and the elimination stage is going to be roughly the same as the legends beforehand, where the 8 from the opening stage are going to play the 8 from the elimination stage. This is going to be creating a very interesting dynamic with the capsules because obviously we can't have a contenders, a legends, and a challengers. After that, we have the return of Danger Zone. Now, Danger Zone was confirmed to be coming back in a specific interview, but we know there's going to be a lot of different things about it. First of which, the way Danger Zone previously worked was it divided up the maps into little different chunks, and that's how it loaded it because that was the only optimized way inside of Source 1. But inside of Counter-Strike 2, there's a lot of different ways, so it has to be completely redone. So honestly, it's not too big of a surprise for me personally that's not back here yet. We also know of a lot of different things they're trying to add into Danger Zone as well, so the fact is there's going to be a lot of things coming to Danger Zone, and I think that's probably not the top priority, but it's definitely a priority at least at this point. Now, when it comes to the future of Valve in operation, there's a significant amount of data that backs it up. First up, we obviously have the Twin Blade and the Kukri knife. Now, the Kukri knife is significantly farther along in the process, it seems, because it's in the actual data files, whereas the Twin Blade is just kind of a PNG image that's out there, but it's definitely something that's a little bit more developed than I think a lot of people realize in the current moment. Combine that with the 3 brand new collections that we know are probably going to make an appearance in the future, and you can look at the past 3 operations. We've seen at least 3 collections in all of those, and I think it makes perfect sense that these were designed and crafted for an operation. Whether that operation was meant to be before the release of CS2 and just never got around to it is not for sure, but I think a lot of these skins are very possible to make an appearance in the future. And don't forget about the smaller things that come along with an operation. We've got data to support that there is possibly an agents pack or a pins pack on the way that is definitely something that could slide into the operation store. Probably a little bit more of the agents pack than the rest of them, but it's definitely quite interesting. Now, talking about the data, we obviously haven't seen an operation or brand new case in a significant amount of time, but you can obviously see that from the graphs on screen. The biggest one I want to focus in on is the maps. We haven't seen any brand new maps or really any maps at all since the release of CS2. And I think if Valve is waiting to go ahead and add in the maps, they're probably waiting for some content to back it up because people aren't just going to join back if a couple brand new maps come into the game. They're going to be waiting for a big content update, and I think Valve is clearly aware of that. Now, how can you profit off something like this? Well, if we're talking about an operation, filler skins usually increase during a period of an operation when the interest is high inside of the game. Now, we don't know for sure if that's going to be the exact same way now because of the new drop system, but I think it's very unlikely we wouldn't see any price increase for a significant amount of the filler skins. Otherwise, if you want to go ahead and pick up some Anubis package or any of these items that are set at a specific price, when they drop down significantly lower doing a buy order, that's actually going to be a way you can profit as well. This is something I do with the Anubis package. I bought them for $1.40, I'm going to sell them for $1.70, and I'm going to make about 10 cents per. Now, if you think Valve is going to be cracking down a little bit more on these case farmers, you could also go ahead and potentially pick up some of the cheapest active duty cases out there. I wouldn't suggest investing into anything other than the snake bite, but if you wanted to go for the fracture or the recoil, that's definitely your decision, but definitely realize this is a really risky investment. And finally, during this time, general investments overall are going to be the #1 way to profit. Those past 3 are a little bit risky, they're a little bit vulnerable to susceptions in the market, but overall, if you're investing into cheaper rare cases or rare cases that you know are going to have sustainable growth in the future, it's going to be the #1 way for you to profit. That's all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day.